12-step addiction recovery program is one of the only programs in the world that comes with guarantees. It comes with promises. You do this and that'll happen. And, very few people can argue with probably one of the best things that have come out of America, which is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Emotions Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, you name it. In 12 steps, they say you can find recovery, and they've proved it a million times, 10 million times, I don't know, but they've proved it a lot. And what we want to talk today is about these promises of recovery. And there are 12 promises, and the first one says you're going to find a new freedom and happiness. And happiness is something that everybody's pursuing instead of purpose in addiction. Always pursuing, trying to be happy, trying to get rid of the negative feelings, trying to be instantly happy and make it work is something that anyone who's suffered addiction, even anxiety and depression, as we link in a similar category where people are suffering, you come to realize that you are never free and never happy. Addiction is certainly a prison, and the sooner people realize that, the better. So the first promise is understanding that there is a new freedom and new happiness coming your way. It is hope instead of desperation. So it says if you work that first step, coming to accept that your life is unmanageable chaos and in a way that you are insane, because the second step says being restored to sanity. So clearly, in a nice way, it's trying to say that you're insane. You can get to know a new freedom and happiness, and the reward is hope instead of desperation. The second promise is we will not regret the past nor shut the door on it. And the reward here is faith instead of despair. So you start to understand faith does not have to be a religious thing. Everybody needs faith. You need faith to cross a street, especially here in South Africa. You need faith to know that when you open your can of tuna fish, that you're not going to die of some ridiculous food poisoning. You need to trust and have faith in the expiry dates on that can. And I think that's what they mean by having faith. Faith is something you don't really have hope and faith in chronic addiction. You tend to lose it all. So the second promise says, we will not regret the past nor shut the door on it. The reward for this is faith instead of despair. So new hope is certainly what the second step of the 12 steps is about. The third step of the 12 steps is making a decision to turn your wills in your life over to something else, something bigger than you. I can't do this. Someone else can. There's something out there that's working for the rest of the world. And step 3, make a decision to start to hand yourself over to something else other than your ego, than your continuous drive to do things the way you've always done things. And that is addiction, doing things the way you've always done things and probably expecting a different result. So the third promise is we will comprehend the word serenity. And for that, we will get courage instead of fear. So courage means coming from the heart. To be courageous really is a prerequisite of doing this program. You come from the heart, the very thing, the very place that you have been trying to shut out, possibly for years, possibly for decades, with addictions, obsessions, compulsions. And When you become courageous, you act from the heart. So that really does make sense. The fourth promise, we will know peace. Peace instead of confusion. And anybody trapped in addiction is always as confused as can be. You will see that when they come into treatment, it's very difficult for people in that obsessive mind state to even keep a steady thought for a minute, an hour, a day. Once they've worked things through, they tend to lose it all and go into a state of confusion, and it must be a terrible place to be. So overcoming that with the fourth promise, and finally knowing a sense of peace and serenity is an amazing thing. If you've been suffering for a long time, to know real peace, no drug can give you, no dope, no coke, no nothing. People can try for years and years. They are so desperate to get it. So when the fourth promise comes through, it really is quite exceptional for a lot of people to experience that, the fruits of that, the labors of looking within, realizing, admitting, handing over, all these things that the first 4 steps talk about, and then you get a promise of serenity and peace, and you see these things manifest in your life so often, and so much so that they've written it down, and we have evidence that it's worked for millions of people. It may not work for you, but it's worked for millions and millions of people. And I think the hope is that it can work for you. Why can it work for him and her and not you and them? So it is important to develop belief that if you work recovery, promises 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12 will manifest themselves for you. We are not special and different. We are all the same. We are all similar. And we can heal by following a system. So we need a system. For that, it might be different for everybody, but we need a system. So pick one and start to recover. The fifth promise says, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. Self-respect is the reward instead of self-contempt. Self-contempt, self-flagellation is a huge hurdle for people to get over. Everybody's looking to self-destruct. They are guilty. They are feeling shame. And it really is something that you need to overcome. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, it says, we will experience things that can actually benefit other people. And that is the 12th step of recovery. That is the meaning of life according to many of the great traditions, religious and spiritual traditions. And you start to experience that with the fifth promise. And it's a beautiful thing. Sixth promise, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Oh, that's the second half of it. Self-confidence and helplessness are replaced. So you replace your helplessness with a sense of, hold on a second, I can actually do this. I can actually make changes. How you change anything, how you make a plan to stop smoking. We don't say to people, you stop smoking today and expect they've miraculously stopped. They put together a plan, they follow a system, and they cut down, for example. So the feeling of uselessness and despair will dissolve with each small little victory. Hey, hold on a second, I have cut down. I have an anger problem, but it's getting better. I stop myself. I have learned to stop, observe, check things out before I react. So I sit with the thought longer. I mull the feelings over. It's not just anger that I might be feeling. It might be something to do with my self-esteem. It might be I'm getting angry because I'm fearful. So those are victories. Knowing that you do those things and then seeing, hold on, I don't have to just run away with this impulse. I can make a change. Brings about that confidence And that's how it's built. It's built slowly and it's built over time. And this is a process. And we're always saying to people, trust the process, looking for the small victories on the way. And it does bring with it self-confidence. The seventh promise says we will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Reward the self-respect of others, pity, and contempt. So we will lose interest in selfish things. Our little grand designs, our little plans, our little trying to keep secrets, and our little things that don't end up working for us, that leave us in an institution like a rehab center, a hospital, a jail. When you let those things go, there is a reward, and that's the reward promise number 7 is talking about. The 8th promise, self-seeking will slip away. A clean conscience instead of a sense of guilt. A clean conscience is something that, resembles a clean slate, and everyone is entitled to a second and third and fourth chance in life. We are not given very big brains, and quite honestly, we're not that intelligent. And even if we do act from the intellect, it can be something that holds us back. You have to bring emotion, courage, the heart to it. And you have to bring your soul to problems. Otherwise, you are going to run into dead ends and difficulties. So the 9th promise says our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Now, changing your attitude is what scientists describe as the only difference between a human and an animal. Anything else on the planet cannot do the one thing that you can do, which is choose your attitude. Choose what things mean to you. So we can do that. Hold on. Life is not about me. It is about we. It's about helping people suffer less. I have suffered. Damn. I need to help other people suffer less. And realizing that brings a healthy cycle into life. That's what everything does. The tree feeds the this, feeds the that, feeds the thing. It's all an absolute cycle of cooperation. And when you're not cooperating, pain will come along and readjust you and get you through suffering to contribute, because that's what you need to do. So our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Real friendships instead of the loneliness that all addicts suffer. Even saying, how are you? I'm fine all the time, when you're breaking and dying inside, is an awful thing that you cannot share with other people easily. So breaking the bonds of that stuff and becoming part of or connected to everything else is what recovery is about. It's reconnecting to good things in life. And life is good. We don't have a choice. Good morning. Good day. There's not a choice. Life is good. It is when we go astray, when we get stuck in our thinking or our drinking, whatever it's going to be, we suffer. Because a lot of those thoughts are going to be void of truth and reality. So the more we connect to other people, the more truth and reality come. Hey, life's not that bad. Together, life is less of a burden. And this isn't anything new. This has been around for millions and millions of years. So that connection is really what the core part of recovery is all about. Reconnection, recovery. The 10th promise says, fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. The reward is a clean pattern of life instead of a purposeless existence. When you start chasing purpose instead of happiness, which is fleeting, life is not just about being happy all the time. When you start to chase purpose, absolutely everything changed, and happiness is added then to you. So, how did I find my happiness? By chasing purpose and not happiness. So that is really something that you got to get your head around through a lot of reading, a lot of learning, and a lot of recovery. But it does come for you as this 10th step promises. Fear of people and always worried about the next check, the paycheck, where am I going to live? How am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And it breeds that chaos, and that does slip away. And it's a beautiful thing to see that on people who have had a spiritual experience, an awakening, a recovery. You see that serenity and peace on them, and you know, you start to say to yourself, I want that. I need that too for myself. The 11th promise is we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. The love and understanding of our families will come to us instead of their doubts and fears. So always having people doubt you, and oh, here we go again, here's the same old thing. Are they clean? Are they always, all of that stuff slips away in the 11th promise, and we start to benefit from that. So we stop, as people stop second guessing us so much and trying to see what we're hiding, what we're manipulating, what we've always done in the past in addiction. We can say recovery is completely separate, and you know, we're born again, born anew. We've made a shift, we've hit a tipping point. Whatever it's going to be is something completely new from the old. So what's changed to this point is probably everything. And for people to see that and acknowledge it is a beautiful thing. And the last promise, the 12th promise, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. The freedom of happiness, of a happy life, instead of the bondage of an alcoholic obsession, is the reward. So, you know, understanding that you are free. You have been given something that you could not do for yourself. Whether you believe this is God, whether you believe it's the program, whether you believe it's a smart recovery, it's your Buddhist experience, whatever it is, does not matter. But you will suddenly realize, wake up, understand, come to know that God is doing for you what you could not do for yourself. So if this program is all about the deflation of ego, which I really, really believe all 12 steps in one are the absolute deflation of ego back into a spiritual, internal, sort of connected space, is what this whole 1 through 12 step program is about. And, you know, realizing that you cannot do it as an island on your own is something that you probably cannot tell a young teenager who hasn't been through X, Y, and Z and hasn't seen for themselves that they are not invincible, that they're not omnipresent. They cannot get to a place of freedom, purposeful existence, by following hedonistic things, by following quick fixes, taking shortcuts. You can't explain that stuff. So experience, life, suffering, mistakes, relapse, come for us in the beginning, and through all those things, through all of those things, accepting ourselves as people who did not know better, who could not do better for themselves. You know, the Big Book says, my best thinking got me to this point. When people start to realize that, they start to heal and recover. And hold on a second, everything I've done with a sharp intellect of mine has got me here. You know, oh crap moment, I need to do it a different way. Which way? There's many, many different ways out there. So it's 12 steps, it's smart recovery, it's Old Testament, New Testament, doesn't matter what it is. You follow a system of moving away from selfishness, of moving out of ego, understanding what ego is, and going above with an attitude, the only thing you can change, going above yourself and saying, hey, we can do better. I need your help. I need you. I need God. Who is God? And these are things that you're going to need faith for, because you're probably not going to know who God is for a long time, but you get to understand that even though you don't know who God is, He is or she is doing for you through energy, through light, through other people, through the process of night and day, yin and yang, laws of attraction, all these foo-foo things. He or she is doing for you the things that, man, I could not do for myself. So I wish you a recovery where you get to experience all 12 of those promises. And, it's a no-brainer that when the time is right, you pick a system and you work that system and you see results come. And I think that's what the promises have been written down for. You see, they're a guideline. Hold on, things are better. This is working. I was not working. So follow a system, get involved, and get going, and watch your entire life change.